But anyway, Browns draft guys. We've talked about all the different players, Fano and the receivers and EMW, and there you see the whole list. Which one of these guys do you feel like 10 years from now will have had the best career?
I think it's going to be Spencer Fano.
Yeah.
He was always my favorite, the guy that I really wanted the Browns to draft the most in this entire process. I just think that, at 6'6", 330 pounds, his 330 looks different from a lot of guys. He's very lean, very athletic. I think the fact that he can play right tackle, left tackle, shows he has a high football IQ. I think that George Warhop, based on the people that I know that's played in the league, that's familiar with George, say George Warhop is a really, really damn good coach. And you see a lot of guys on the offensive line eager to play from him and learn from him. And then the biggest caveat to me is you're going to be lining up opposite of Myles Garrett, practicing during the week. And Lil Wayne is famous for saying, like, repetition is the father of learning. And who better to learn from than the best defensive player in the entire NFL? The fact that he has that high football IQ, the fact that he has that passion and just that hunger to be great, along with the coaching and the practice reps he's going to get, whether it be at tackle, guard, or elsewhere. He's a guy that Todd Monken has identified can play across the offensive line. I think that you're looking at a perennial Pro Bowler and possibly an All-Pro guy in 10 years when you're talking about Spencer Fano.
You said Fano, and that's probably the obvious right choice. So I'm not going to say the exact same player as you. I'll go with Concepcion. I think that now again, caveat is he's got to have some hands, right? Right. I mean, the concerns are with this guy is the drops, right? But he has immense talent. I mean, separation, speed, great route runner, like does really everything that you want a number one receiver to do. Little short on the size, he's maybe 6 foot. If he, 5'11", 6 foot, whatever it may be, doesn't matter. I think the guy's going to be special. The question is, do we have somebody to throw him the football? Will he be special in Cleveland, or will he be special somewhere else? Hopefully he plays for the Browns for a decade, and the Browns have their quarterback, and they figured this thing out. But, I think it's time for the Browns to finally have drafted a legitimate number one receiver that can continue to be electric on Sundays, not just for a season like Braylon or Josh Gordon. Like those guys just had this one, breakout year. Kellen Winslow, another one, he's a tight end, but still, like those guys were here for just 2 seconds and had really, really blips of, great success. I think this guy can really be special.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with Earl and be obvious about it, but I think the clear answer is Fano. When you take a guy in the top 10, it better be who it is. And I do think that there's a chance that he doesn't stick at left tackle for 10 years. I do think, the size could become a concern where he has to move to guard. But for now, he's the left tackle, and I hope he's the left tackle for the next 10 years. And he's crazy athletic, great feet. And I was talking to somebody who knows offensive line play who said because of the size, like his angles and stuff like that have to be perfect. And if he is that good of a technician, then he can stick, being a little bit undersized. He's going to get tested in camp this year. Miles is going to go at him and probably test his confidence a little bit. And if he can survive camp and if he can survive Miles, he'll be ahead of the game. So, again, if you're taking a guy in the top 10, he better be, if he's not onto a second contract, that's a massive, massive miss. So I'm going to go with the obvious one of Fano. And I believe in him. I believe in the character, and I believe in the athleticism. I mean, I think regardless of where he's at, he's going to have a long career here.
Those are the obvious answers, and I think I would go with Fano too, just because they traded back. He was the guy Andrew Berry identified. But I'm going to give you a little different answer, and I'm fully aware I may be talking myself into this. But based on, and this is not the question, I'm changing the question just to give a different answer. Based on where they were picked, who do I think has the best chance to outperform his draft status in 10 years when we look back? It's Parker Brailsford, the center from Alabama. Yeah. I was talking to someone yesterday who used the term, and Dustin, maybe you've heard this. I hadn't. He said Parker's need to put a little more sand in his pants, and then he'll be a great NFL center. I mean, he's got to put on a little bit more weight.
Yeah.
But his technique, the intelligence he plays with, the fact he's been in 3 different systems and excelled at all 3, played all 3 interior positions on the offensive line. He said if he was a little bigger, this dude's a first-round pick. kind of like Tyler Lindenbaum was coming out. And who was Lindenbaum's coach in Baltimore that helped him develop into the All-Pro, highest-paid center in the history of the league?
Wow.
A guy named Todd Monken. So maybe I'm making too many connections of dots. Maybe I'm betting too much on the Browns meal plan, which will put 15 pounds on him. I understand it's a giant projection, and if I had to make a real answer, it'd be Fano or Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who we talked about earlier. But based off where he was picked and based off how good I think he could be, I'm riding high in the Parker Brailsford train.
I don't think it was that giant of a projection, Mike. We heard from every draft expert all year long that the interior of the offensive line was strong, and you can find you a starting center or guard in the late round. So the Browns hopefully did that. You got George Warhop coaching them up. Let's see what happens.
We'll see you next hour on YouTube of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.